All right, here's the current situation. I was able to stay with black negative and red positive on those two, and then here's where it gets out of control. I ran out of black and red, so I used white and yellow because that makes sense. And yellow is black, and then yellow goes to blue, and then yellow back there goes back to red, and then black goes to blue and white and red, and that goes back there. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. Holy crap, we're actually doing the front suspension. The brake line retainers are riveted in there, so you got to drill those out. You can get to this one, you can get to that one, you can get to the rear one. You can't get to that one with the drill. So I got a cutoff wheel. I'm going to cut that off. I'm doing bits and pieces. I got the springs to do on these. I'm thinking it's going to be easier to do that with it out of the vehicle, but I might try and do it without taking the shock out of there. We shall see. Well, that escalated quickly. We got all of the passenger side suspension off. So now we got to find the passenger side arms. And we got to take bushings out of the factory ones, ball joints out of the factory ones, and press them in here. That's what we're working on now. Oh, also, we got to take the factory springs off and put the MTS springs on there. Holy smokes. I didn't record because there is a lot of colorful words. Yeah. Taking the bushings out of the factory arms isn't super bad. Removing the ball joints without destroying them because you were an idiot and you didn't just buy new ones with the new arms is pain. So here's a factory arm. Removing this guy, this is where the shock bolts to. Extremely annoying. Remember, I'm trying to remove it without destroying anything, so I'm being very careful. So far, I have the upper for one side done. I do not have the lower done because see how the ball joint's in there still? I didn't have a good way of pressing that thing out of there because of how it sits and how it is and all that other stuff. So I bought this kit that finally just showed up. Hopefully there's a sleeve in here that'll work good to press that out of there and press the new one in there. I have my first complaint about L&W. Whoever they use for powder coating sucks bad. Because look at this. They didn't even prep the frickin' surface. As soon as I went to go press the ball joint in there, the shit's just peeling off of there. So I'm going to take some pictures and send it to them because I'm not super thrilled about that. And if that's what this one piece looks like, what is it going to look like on every other piece that I bought, which is the entire suspension? So not super thrilled about that. And you could tell it was because it wasn't prepped. That's just raw metal. They didn't blast it or sand it or anything. So the powder ain't going to stick, apparently, because it didn't stick. So I'm going to continue working on this thing. I have the next few days off of work. I'm being very careful with everything because this is an expensive machine and I want it to be nice. So you could see on this arm, I got that lower shock mount pressed in there. The bushings were relatively easy. We've got this fancy inside bearing puller. So this guy just goes in there, you thread it together, it expands this out, and that's how I was able to pull the bushings out of the arm here. So I'm going to continue to chisel away at this, doing the front suspension. I still don't have the rear suspension yet from L&W. Been reaching out to them. Having the right tools is very handy. So this ball joint press tool, this is a configuration. I put electrical tape on there so I didn't have to hold two pieces together. Works really good for pressing the ball joints in and out. The problem is if you're a knucklehead like me and you don't use the right size of the right tool, you do really stupid things. I'm not happy about this at all. And you press the spherical part out of the joint. So I ordered a new one of these. This is for the lower shock. The problem is the sleeve that I was using, the ID, was just a little bit too small, so it just pushed the inside out of the outside. So not happy at all. Can't blame anybody but my stupid self. So I'll get the rest of the suspension done And I'll have to wait for that new spherical to show up so that I can install it in this arm. Yeah, that's so frustrating, but the right tools are right, or the right tools are nice, but when you're dumb, you could still have the right tools do some wrong stuff for you. Learn from my mistakes. Don't be stupid. I got the winch plate back from the powder coater. This guy is the guy to go to. He's in Johnstown. He got this thing done on a holiday week in like 2 days. I told him, I was like, if you can't get it done, it's okay, but I'd like to get it back as soon as possible. Because I had big hopes and dreams to put this thing together until I destroyed that frickin' lower, what the heck is this thing called? This lower uniball guy. Like an idiot. Anyways, we got the winch plate back so we can install that. I finally got all of the A-arms ready to go in except for that pivot bushing that I messed up. So, since I was gonna put the suspension back together, I figured I'd put the new coils on the shocks because that was the last thing that came out. So here's the factory coils. That's a factory main, MTS main, factory tender, MTS tender. So I have this all set per their website. So 2.5 inches on preload and then 5 inches on the tender. I'm going to just use spring compressors to compress these, slide it in there, and put the top hat on there. Is my goal anyways. Driver's side shock is installed. So that bolt up there is really fun to get to. But I got that installed, so now I can start putting together the rest of this. I'm going to plug these in real quick. This goofy little clip guy is not clipping in there anymore, so I gotta look at that. But anyways, passenger side is mostly put together. This thing has camber adjustment. No, I don't have that tight yet because I don't know what that's going to look like. I guess I could just suck that tight, set it down, and see how bad that is, and then kind of sucks I got to take stuff back apart in order to adjust it. But my other complaint about L&W is there's not even anywhere to put the brake lines. So I just zip tied them on there. The factory arms have got all these spots, and I didn't feel like drilling and tapping and bolting and all that stuff. I feel like that should have already been done coming from OEM, but it was not. All right, let's keep going. Let's go do the driver's side. Driver's side springs are on there. I used this outside spring compressor, so I just set everything, put this on the main spring, collapsed it down until I could get this back in there, and then took it back off. I just did it even. So that one's done. I can hang that one. I cannot put this suspension completely together because I'm still waiting for that, but I can get everything else hung in place, and I'm pretty sure I can get that pressed in there with the arm hanging on there. So let's get this shock hung in there. All right, here we are in the dark, but for a reason. There's kind of some light, right? Let me turn this on real quick. We're in the dark for a reason, because we're testing out rock lights. Because since I broke that frickin' bushing on the lower A-arm, I kind of am at a standstill with that. So I'm testing out rock lights. So I put the 35s on there. See? And I put some rock lights just kind of arbitrarily in some random places underneath the wheel wells on the front and the rear. And I kind of set the RZR back down. It looks funny because it doesn't have any driver's side suspension on it at all. See, this is all, I know it's dark in here. But anyway, so let me turn this light back off so that you could see what I got going on with the light situation here. I'm trying to figure out where to put lights at. It does look weird just looking at it like that, but I don't really care what the RZR looks like as much as I care about how much it lights up out here. So it is like pitch black in the shop right now, but it lets out pretty good light, and it's sitting really high. So this shade where the tire's at is going to come over here a little bit, but it is lighting up some stuff. There's 4 lights in the back. We got one right there. There's one up there which actually lights up the engine. See if you cover that. That works pretty good. This one just aimed straight to the side, and this one's aimed straight back, which actually lights up. That's like 15 feet away. It lights that up pretty good. And then there's 3 in the front. So we got that one going straight out. This one kind of goes down. This one, it's just got some double-sided sticky tape, but this one goes out. And you can see how much aiming that affects it. But the point is to have these so you could turn them on when you're playing around in the dark and light up kind of around you where the headlights don't light up. The other thing is what does it look like to mount those lights permanently? I think some of them I might double-sided sticky tape. The other ones I might bolt, but I'm not sure yet, because I don't really want a whole bunch of gajillion bolts everywhere and holes all over the place. So we'll see. We are doing some comparison of the old RZR versus the new RZR. So this is the new RZR with those lights and the light output that it puts out. And it looks like it puts out some output because this is like pitch black in the shop. But then look at the old RZR. It freaking lights up everything. It's like UFOs landing over here. And that's the light output that I want. I just don't want lights this big. These are older ones, so maybe the newer ones are smaller, but I think I want to ditch those lights that are on the new RZR and go with something like this, because look at this freaking output. That's what I want. Well, and I like that you could aim them too, whether the other ones they're got that. I would have to make mounts to do those, but then that would, I might as well just buy those.
Lighting up the side of the car here versus what it's doing on the wall over there.
Yeah, like this is
a lot more illuminated.
Yeah. So this just so you could see is that's just the fang lights on this, but this is just those lights. That's a huge difference. I think that's what I want. Dang it! Ta-da! Those are front rock lights and the rear rock lights. Well, now I got to figure out the dash switch, as these came with their own switch, but I'm not using it. So it is a 3-wire, so I should be able to make all of that work, because I got the ground, the hot, and then the indicator for the light. So I will figure out where to mount this relay and then run this in for the dash for the switch and make that all nice and pretty. Even though I'm still waiting on the trailing arms, I decided I was done moving these around, so I put the radius arms on there. And let me tell you how freaking fun it is to get to the nut on the inside of here. Wowzers. Not fun at all. But I got the L&W Fab plate on there with a little pulled tie down hooky-doo, and the arms on there. They're still loose, so I can adjust the camber. But that's one thing off the floor. I have the springs for the rear, so I think I'm going to do those. I really don't want to just like take it apart and put it back on these trailing arms, but L&W said they had a machine go down, so it's going to be like the end of this month until they're even ready. So I'm going to get the springs done on the rear shocks. I've got the rear sway bar bars, whatever, the little extension bar, I've got those. I did discover that I'm probably going to have to take the freaking winch back out, because this bolt is supposed to go in this way. I got it in that way. I kind of had to finagle it in there sideways, so if it works like that, then I'm not taking the winch back out. But if it doesn't, I got to take the freaking winch back out. Biscuits. Anyways, I'm going to keep grinding away on this, trying to get everything that I can get done. Rear suspension done. Although I did find something weird. This little aluminum sleeve guy that's on the bottom of where the crossover ring is, when I set this up to MTS dimensions, this plastic crossover was underneath this, so it was going to catch that. And I didn't like that, so I went ahead and adjusted it myself. I did email MTS just to see if I'm doing something wrong. 3 more things off the bench. I have the flag mount, and it's, look at this, it's quick disconnectable. Well, that's fancy. I even got crazy and I put the phone on there with the little level thing and leveled it out, and it doesn't look level, but it says it is. I'm questioning that. But anyways, that's on there. Air compressor is mounted, and it looks like it belongs there. So you don't have to move the seat or do anything. It doesn't affect the harnesses or any of that. And it's right there where it's easy to get to. So if you go to use it, turn the key on, flip the switch on the bottom, set this to whatever pressure you want, and you're good. And then I just Velcroed the hose up to that. That might be annoying to get back to when you go to use the hose, but that's okay. We can figure out something different for that later. Maybe we can tie it up here, I don't know. I think it looks all right.
Like me looking at that one over there, it's like blinding.
So I got the dome lights temporarily wired up, and I'm trying to figure out where their home needs to be. So it's dark in the shop other than we're learning how to use a torque wrench, but these things are freaking blinding bright. I almost wonder if they just need to be aimed straight at each other. I mean, it lights up every single thing in here.
That is wicked.
They are really bright. It's either that or I can put like one back there and one up here. And, oh, that's the other thing I need to consider. There's a glove box here and a glove box there. So if I did it here,
you could see in the glove box.
well, I bet you if you did this one too. Yeah, I mean that one lights up stuff too. But if you do it here, you don't run the risk of nailing your head on it.
Right.
I'll keep experimenting and figure out where I want them. All right, here's the current situation. There's wires going everywhere. So I was able to stay with black negative and red positive on those two. And then here's where it gets out of control. I ran out of black and red, so I used white and yellow because that makes sense. And yellow is black, and then yellow goes to blue, and then yellow back there goes back to red, and then black goes to blue and white and red, and that goes back there. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. And then here's some blue on the floor. I have the back 2 LEDs, or little dome light things, just temporarily strapped up there. I'm going to turn the lights in the shop back off again and see if that's adequate light, which I'm assuming it's going to be because it's super freaking bright. But if that's adequate light for back there. All right, you ready, Dad? It's going to get dark. Well, I guess the RZR will be bright. Holy smokes. Yeah, that seems like this is plenty bright back here. And then if you open the storage box without grinding out the yellow, black, red, and blue wires, you can see in there. Ta-da! So actually, if I went a little further down on the bars, that might work better. Like there. Makes it easier to get to when you're back here. Yeah, if you did that, you can see in there pretty well. And I could mount it up high as possible. That lights it up even better.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. And then you have light that's in there, and you can still take these out without affecting the lights.
Yeah.
I think that's all right. I think that'll work. All right, after much cussing, breaking drill bits, and self-tapping screws, because I am just not good at that. I got the front ones mounted, so I drilled the holes, tapped them. I did not run the wires through this tube because this tube does not tie into this one internally. So I had to run it external to the hole that's already in the frame on both the driver and passenger. So the driver side, passenger side's mounted. In the back, I've got the cooler light mounted. That's on the plastic just because it made the most sense to mount it there. From what you've seen when that's there, then you could see inside the cooler well. So that one is on the plastic. This one's going to have its own plug on it. This way, if I ever need to remove the roll cage, then I could just pick this entire section off of there without affecting this one. This light should be good for in here. This light should be good for in here. Dome lights are wired and mounted. So they have a little push button on them. You can turn them on and off. But the way that I have them tied in is to accessory power. So if you leave them all on and then you turn the key off, then where's the key? Then they turn off. And I think that these things have to be switched. So I think once you turn the key back on, yeah, it won't come back on. So that's kind of neat. Holy freaking smokes. It's been a week and a half and I finally just went to a local dealership to get that bushing because it got lost in UPS. But look at the front suspension's back together and the front fascia's on there and the front bumper's on there and the winch is in there, and I just free spooled it to pull this out because I removed that black sleeve thing that kept getting caught on everything. But that looks good. I need to tighten up these bolts for this plate still. Those are loose. And then I need to set it down and I need to do an alignment. And I need to finish up all the wiring. I have a lot of things to do still. I just noticed something interesting as I was tightening those bolts. Look at this axle shaft. It is in contact with the lower A arm at full droop. And so is this one. So that's not really what you want. Hopefully it's because the alignment's out. I have this so that it is cambered all the way in because I haven't set it on the ground yet. So maybe once you space that out, that would increase this and pull that away from there. Maybe. Before I set this on the ground and check the camber, I'm going to put a couple spacers in there and see if that prevents that, because regardless of what the camber is, we do not want that axle to contact the lower A arm. So I'm going to take this apart real quick. I'm going to put maybe I'll just do one spacer at a time. They're 117 thousandths each, so I'll do that and see if that helps, and then I'll know that's what I got to do to adjust camber anyways. We got to take the front suspension back apart again. We haven't even used it yet. So I put spacers in here, and even with those spacers in there, this thing is still touching that weld down at the bottom, see? Where there's no light. So then what I did is I pulled this far apart, so like that, which is further than it really should go, because then the nut's only like one thread on there. And with that, now see there's a little bit of a gap, but it is like, I don't know, like 1/32 of an inch maybe. So with as much as these CV axles, yeah, see, I can move it. That thing's gonna wear a groove in the axle, so I gotta take it back apart and shave a little bit of material off of right there. It's really where that weld is at. And then I'm going to get with L&W and tell them, hey, you probably should fix this before you send them out, because this is annoying. All right, so you can see where, let me get a flashlight. The axle was already hitting. See the chip and the powder coat already in between those two silver lines? And I rotated the axle, but see all these? That's just from me moving the suspension up and down trying to assemble all this. So I'm going to take a flapper wheel and grind that down. Probably take a little bit more material than flush out of there, and then put it back together and see what it looks like. So that's definitely annoying. So I got to do that with both sides. So this side's still, I didn't do anything with it yet, but I'll go remove some material from that. And then my really expensive A-arms are going to have a area that don't have any powder coat on them already. And I didn't even bash it off on the rocks yet. Dang it. All right, I got too excited and we just did some grinding and everything. Dad walked off with the flashlight, so I'll just use this one. But we ground that down smooth and then we dusted it with black paint. It doesn't look great, but that's fine. And then I used the heat gun to melt the paint on there because it didn't like that it says 57 degrees in here. So it's way smoother than it was. There's zero humps at all. So we're gonna put this side back together. This right here is where the axle is hitting. You could see where it was rubbing there. So I'm gonna grind this down. I did notice on the other side I ground it down, reassembled it, and it's still close. So I'm gonna take even more material out of this than I did on the other side. All right, hopefully that is good. I took that so it's completely smooth. This side is reassembled. It's very hard to see in there with it assembled, but there is a tiny gap in there. See how you can see the light shining through? Not very much, but if you look at the right angle, you could see a little bit. I just can't get the camera in there. So I think what I'll do is once I set the camber up, then I will run it at full droop and just see if it starts grooving into that axle, and then come back to it and see what however else I can correct it, because I don't know if L&W is going to correct it any faster than me. And I don't know that I want to wait. Alright, got this one back together. And it's still touching. So I circled it where the silver is at. So this piece right here is too wide and it's hitting that. So I got to take it back apart and sand that down. This side, that bevel goes in sooner. So this side doesn't interfere there. So I'm going to take this back apart. So it was hitting, the axle is hitting right in here. So where that silver mark is on the side of it. I need to take this weld out a little bit. This is like too wide here. So now you can see light all the way. So that's good. We got more clearance. I mean, it is minimal clearance, but there is some. So both sides have clearance with the A-arm now. So I'm going to put the rest of it together, put the tires on it, lower it down on the ground and get the suspension all settled, and try and do an alignment on it. And then when I do that, I'll really be able to see what it looks like when the alignment's correct, because maybe I need to add more camber, and the more you add here, the better that gets. So maybe we need to add a bunch. The problem is we can't add too much or else the nut won't have any material to bite onto. All right, me and Dad just did an alignment on this. We did toe and camber in the front, and then we did camber in the rear. So the front is actually 2 degrees positive camber, and the rear we got right at 0. We didn't want to take any more out on the front, because then that makes this axle shaft way closer to that when it's at full droop. So see, right now there's like 3/4 of an inch gap. Well, when it's at droop, there's not. So we got that done. So the next thing is we got to clean up all this wiring, put the plastics and everything back in there. We got to put the winch and the rock light switch in the dash. I don't have the light bar yet, so that'll have to be later. We're getting close. I got the fenders on, the hood on, and the dash on. Look at that. It's all back together again. I got the mirrors on there and tightened down. I didn't tighten down the lights yet because I need to turn the lights off in here and then aim those. And then I'll tighten those down. It looks pretty good. I did not put together any of this for the clutch yet because I still need to test it, make sure the RPMs are good. I did notice another issue with the L&W high clearance A-arms. This is my limiting factor. The tire just buries into the arm. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem or if we're just going to wear the powder coat off there, but I have to make sure that the brake lines are not over there because, once again, they didn't supply any sort of mounting for the brake line, so I just went zip tie happy and zip tied them on there, see? Anyways, I did email L&W with my concerns. So with the concern with the upper ball joint cup, the powder coat's chipping right off. So as soon as I press the bearing or the ball joint in there, powder coat comes right off. The lower arms, remember when the CV shaft was hitting and we had to grind that down? Yep. I emailed them about that. And I also emailed them about this clearance issue. I'm giving them the opportunity to respond, so they may fix all of this and it may just all go away. And that's what I'm hoping. Or they may not. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens there. I still want to set this up in the air on the lift and run it 4-wheel drive with the wheels cranked and everything. I'll probably just rotate it by hand first to make sure I don't rip a CV axle apart, but I want to make sure that we're good as far as full droop and full steering. Because when we go rock crawling, we go all the way. We don't limit our steering and throttle and all that crap. We're going to go. All right? We're going to go. Anyways, this is where we're at right now. Working on it a little bit here and there after work. Looking pretty good, though. Got all the plastics on this back together. And it looks good. All right? Wrong, because I missed the freaking clip when I was aligning it. Look at that. You got to take the freaking dash off. You got to slide these back up, so this has got to come loose again. You got to take this off and then this off in order to get this loose. Freaking, I'm gonna really know how to take this apart by the time I'm done with it. Here's a really annoying problem I'm having. This stupid boot right here. It goes between here and here. It's like the space, the length of this to this is shorter than the gap there. I'll show you. Are you watching? So it only goes on one way. It's got this little tab that lines up there. So if you get this on here, which this tube that goes down the center console does move a little bit. So if you get that on there, look at this. How far away that is. So then if you pull this up here, it pulls it off the tube in the frickin' center console. So I might have to just wedge one of them on there. And then pull the other one to it, I guess. Oh, that's working great. That's just frickin' won't even tighten down. What a pain in the butt. Yeah, look how frickin' far that is away from there. And then when you get it aligned with this, you pull it off the frickin' clutch cover. I really feel like you probably should put the center console one on there first. See? Pulled it off right there. How dumb. God, what a dumb problem. I gotta figure out like how that goes in there so I can try and jam it this way. What a pain in the ass. I took this cover back off. Not super excited about it. But then I can get to this tube. See how much this tube moves? So I need to somehow, because when you got this cover on there, you can't frickin' get to that. So I need to somehow take this tube, somehow take this tube and permanently pull it forward. I did notice that all my new wires that I put in here, I had them kind of wedged up against that tube, causing some issues. So I think what I'm going to do is pull all of that out of there and make sure I've got enough clearance for this tube to move, and then I'll tie that back up. And then what I was thinking is I've got this shifter mount here, so I was thinking I could put some zip ties down here and tighten them down, or maybe even like a hose clamp and tighten it down, and then take some zip ties from here to there, or really maybe a hose clamp or something that's adjustable so that I could pull this that way. But right now we've got these wires are kind of hitting that tube, so I need to take this conglomeration loose. I think probably what happened realistically is when I was installing all the accessory wires. Are you on? When I was installing all the accessory wires, I pulled that tube towards the front of the razor, so now I gotta fix my screw up. Annoying. This is really goofy, but it is what it is. So I got all the wires out of the way. That wasn't the problem. There just wasn't enough room, and even if I loosened the front part of the tube, there's not enough room because of how the bends are. Let me show you. So right here where that bend is, it hits this guy. So I have it pulled up as far as it'll go there, and then I got creative with the hose clamp, some zip ties to pull this entire thing this way and this way, because it was like shot over that way. So, you know, that way, this way, all the ways. And now look, it lines up. Kind of goofy, not super happy about it, but if I remember right, when I took this apart, I touched this and it fell off. So that's going to be something to watch out for. But right now it seems like it's on there pretty good. So I'm sure somebody will end up coming out with a silicone tube for that, because that thing is pretty rigid. It doesn't want to bend at all. So whatever shape it is whatever shape it is. Anyway, so I'm going to put this cover back on there, tuck these wires back in, and then we'll be back to where we started, which is so freaking frustrating. Alright, it's all the way back together. I don't have anything else to put on it at the moment. Look at the interiors in there, the shifters in there, all that stuff's in there. I got 10 gallons of fuel. I'm going to put fuel in there, and then I got to play musical cars, because the black truck's going to get door glass tomorrow, and there's like 4 inches of snow outside, so I got to trailer it over there. So anyways, wish me luck getting ready to play musical cars. Ride me out. People had mentioned online filling up the ProR being a problem. What I noticed is you go to fill this up and you get gas, it comes all the way up at the top of the tube, and then if you do this, it'll burp and it'll take more fuel. That's kind of obnoxious. I think somebody was saying something about you can modify the fill tube, take something out of it or something. I might have to do that, because I got it from the dealer. I doubt the dealer put much gas in it. It was like blinking, flashing, saying that it didn't have any fuel in it. I put one of these that was full in there, which is 5 gallons. And then I put, where's my measurement here? Then I put 3 more gallons in there, so I put 8 gallons in there. And it's saying it's full. And I'm pretty sure this thing takes like a 14 gallon, or it's a 14 gallon capacity tank. So something's not mathing. I mean, it seems like it's getting pretty darned full there. I can't get it to burp anymore. I'm just going to keep putting fuel in there until it tries to come out the top. We're still got, we're still only at 8.5 gallons. All right, I wasn't really believing a lot of what I read online, but you guys were right. It took me 5 minutes to get 8 gallons of fuel. Hold on. to get 9 gallons of fuel in this empty ProR. I think once it's empty, I'm gonna have to take that fuel neck out of there and take that vent tube thing that's on the inside of there out, because that's what I read online that people do, and then it feels better. I don't know why that's in there. Probably some stupid Californian emission thing. Sorry if you're from California. I'm sorry that you're from California. I'm taking the RZR for a rip around the neighborhood, I decided. There's a little bit of snow out here and it's freezing, so I probably should turn my heated seat on. So let's get that figured out. Let's get you mounted. Let's go. Throttle, and it's kind of making me nervous. Like half throttle. The seat warmer's really nice. My butt's warm. My hands are a little cold. My base ain't bad because I got windows in here. rocket, and it rides really nice.